Welcome to an episode of Founder in the Chair. I'm your host, Vina, and I'm super excited to welcome my guest today. She's a lady I've often gone to for advice as well. This lady worked tirelessly in her business for 7 years, 7 days a week, and up to 13 hours a day. But this lady was clever. She had an exit strategy. She knew when to shut shop. So I'm super proud to welcome Tejal Bathia from Mimi's Dessert Lounge today. Welcome, Tejal.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited about today.
Thank you. So, Tejal, tell us your journey, your business journey, and of course, you had an exit strategy which so many of us don't have because I don't know why. I think we think we're going to work forever.
Yeah, I think it's important to recognise when it's time to either step back or step out. And yes, I did 7 years at Mimi's Coffee and Dessert Lounge, but Vina, you forget I did 5 years prior to that, 2 years at home and 3 years in a boutique shop in Datchet.
I remember the beautiful little shop in Datchet.
And that's where we met.
That's
when I made your 40th birthday cake.
Yes, many years ago.
So yeah, I was very lucky because for me, my business was what I call an accidental business. I had just come out of a really messy divorce. And at the time, financially, it was a struggle. And what had happened was my daughter Maya, who is my inspiration, and her nickname is Mimi, hence the reason the name Mimi's. I made her 6th birthday cake. And it was really lovely. And the parents that came were like, oh my God, wow, can you make my daughters? Yeah. Because you know what it's like, all the mums kind of stick together.
Yeah.
So I started to bake for family and friends. And then a few months later, my brother decided to get married. And you know what boys are like? Oh, just make me a wedding cake.
Yeah.
You know, just like that.
Just like that, just whip one up.
So at that time, I didn't even know how to stack a cake. So very grateful to the University of YouTube, because I swear you can learn to be a brain surgeon on YouTube if you're watching us.
So you're self-taught?
Self-taught.
Okay.
And I made my brother's cake. And you know what it's like when one of you gets married in your circle of friends, it almost has a domino effect, right?
Yeah.
So my sister-in-law's friends were getting married and they were like, oh, can you make my wedding cake? So it started off as a little cottage industry within my kitchen at home. And it got so busy to the point where there was no surfaces available downstairs in my house. My daughter and her friends couldn't play downstairs for, the fear of knocking over a cake. And I was too frightened to take it out and take that leap of moving into a commercial premise. And that's when my sister Pavisha, or Honey as everyone knows her, came on board. And we bought this little boutique shop in Datchet. And it was a quintessential shop in a little village. And it was just idyllic and pretty.
It was.
As really remember.
It's just the shop front as well. It was like double fronted. Yeah.
And, the big bay windows with the frosted glass. And it just quintessentially a village cake shop.
Yeah.
And we were there for a couple of years and we, the business grew at a phenomenal rate. And I will always say that is because a lot of the caterers supported me.
Okay.
They were promoting me. They were recommending me. And, the business grew and grew. Now, for me, I'm of that era, when Friends came out.
Yeah.
And I was obsessed with Friends. And for years, I'd said to everyone, I want my version of Central Perk. And I want somewhere where people just come out and they hang and they chill and they drink coffee. Well, the success of the wedding cake business made us feel, maybe we can do this.
Yeah.
And then I'd been driving past this property for years, dropping my daughter to school. And one morning I dropped her and I was coming back the other way and I was sat at the traffic lights and I looked to my right and there's that gorgeous curved building with all that glass.
Yeah.
And when something inside says to you, that's it. I just knew.
You started analysing it.
I rang my sister and I was like, I found it. And we contacted the agent, and I'm not going to lie, it was well over the budget we were looking for. I mean, it was 4 shops.
Yeah.
Never in my dreams had I thought we would be able to do this. But with some help from financial advisors, my brother-in-law, friends, we were able to raise the money. And it was a lot of money, Vina, as you know.
Yeah.
To make that into a coffee shop and dessert now. As our dream was realised. And you know what was so beautiful about that property was the energy was great. It had this real welcoming feel to it. The food was great, but we found that we had the same pockets of people. So on a Friday night, we had our version of that friends group, 6 friends that came every Friday night.
Oh.
They came at 8 o'clock. They stayed till close. They had the same booze, the same seats, and they became familiar and family. And I think that's what drove our success.
Wow. So what made Amini's Dessert Lounge different? Why did this community come and make it like Central Perk?
I think it was because it's so funny because people who worked with me used to say to me, why do you have to speak to everybody? That's in my nature because I'm nosy and I like to, hear people's stories. But more than that, I wanted people to feel that they were seen.
Yeah.
So, if people were coming in, I'd remember, they have a latte and they always like the vanilla cheesecake, or they're coming for breakfast. So literally they'd come in and I'd be like, oh, your usual. And they'd like that familiarity.
Yeah.
And that was very integral to our growth. But I think the other thing that kind of helped us become the community hub was Honey and I made a decision that we were going to give back. So every opportunity that we got, we did things to bring the community together. So initially it would be things like open mic. What Coffee and Dessert Lounge does an open mic night? We'd have spiritual nights where we'd invite psychic mediums in to read because there was a real need. People want hope and clarity, and that's what these people give you. So we started to run little community events and got known for it. I think the biggest thing, however, was the work that we did to support charities. Yeah. Whereas Honey and I had always supported the larger charities like Great Ormond Street, we brought it closer to home. We worked with the local hospices, the local churches, the local hospitals, the local food banks, and we encouraged the community to work with us and support each other.
We come in and there'd be big piles of food and bags. And
we literally say to everyone, come on, help us make these food parcels.
Yeah.
People felt they belonged.
Yeah.
They felt that we were working together as a community. And that, again, was something that really elevated us compared to our competitors.
And what about, you used to do the old school?
Oh, right. So when we came up with the concept of a coffee shop and dessert lounge, and that made sense because obviously it was the cakes that had, given Amini's the brand, given us a presence. So we knew we needed to make our own cakes. But for me, what I always craved was the old school pudding, the Tottenham cake, the coconut cake with custard, the butterscotch tart. And I nailed those recipes. So I wanted to ensure that we did something different because at the time, the biggest players in the market were Creams and Caspers. And they brought in things like cupcakes. They didn't offer that. So we decided to introduce that from day one, and we became the pioneers with old school desserts. We were the first people to put it out there. And now all of the dessert lounges offer those things. So although it was never kind of recognized that we were the pioneers, we know we were. We're happy with that.
Yeah, that makes you feel, yes, I did it. People are now.
Yeah. And I think if there was someone else setting up a business that was in the food industry, the biggest thing that I can give you to take away from my learnings is find something that's different to everyone. The basics can be the same, but you need something that makes you stand out from the crowd.
So imagine they have found that and they found the perfect premises like you did. What else? What else is so key that you wish you had known when you started?
So Honey and I had never run a restaurant before. So we had no idea.
How big was the restaurant?
70-seater.
Wow.
So it's huge. I mean, you
guys are Friday, all that shit.
Yeah, I
Straight
think we went
to-
from something like 400 square feet to 1,600 square feet
Wow.
in 1,000.
Some jump.
Yeah, I think the things that I've learned that I wish I'd known then was, like, for example, when we set the kitchen out, we thought we could cope with 70 people in the shop.
Yeah.
Oh my God, we got that so wrong. The electrics were tripping out every 5 minutes. We were pulling energy from here, there, and everywhere. And literally, our electric circuit could not cope with the volume of things we had plugged in and coming up. So we literally had to shut up shop for a week while we had all the electrics redone at an extra cost. So, really think, if you're looking at a food industry business, really think about what equipment you need and how much power you need to support it if everything's on.
Tell our viewers what the shop was before you made it into a 70-seater.
So strong. The shop was a bathroom shop. So they sold bathroom suites and tiles and stuff like that. And we literally took it back to brick.
Yeah.
And completely revamped it. And at that time, what we wanted was something was very kind of urban, modern chic. And it had that kind of industrial feel to it. However, because of the colours, and it had that warmth about it. So yeah, that was actually really interesting. But then we did a refurb because I think it's really important to see what else is going on. And at the time, everyone was putting in these massive floral walls. And again, what were we going to do to make us stand out? So we had this huge tree put into the centre of the shop, which spread out all the way across with flowers draping. And it became a focal point where, especially with social media being so prevalent at the moment, people were coming in and taking photos. And that was encouraging people to keep coming through.
So would you say social media really helped your business as well?
Social media, yes, it helped. However, Honey and I are, in our 50s. Social media was a word of mouth as far as we're concerned. We're really not very good with technology. I think more than social media, it was the customer services. It was the level of service, that element of familiarity where people felt welcomed. And that was something that we instilled in our staff. Go out and talk to the customers, make sure they're happy, take on board their comments. When we first opened, we didn't have a kids menu. And as we were talking to our customers, they were like, we love it, but wish you had smaller portions. Kids menu put in place, that solves that problem. Listen to what your customers want.
And you talked about staff, like you got your staff to go out and talk to your customers as well. Now, most staff don't really want to do that.
Yeah.
How did you incentivize them to do it?
To be fair, we didn't need to incentivize them. We were very lucky. So I'll tell you how I got my first member of staff. What we did was, before we were opening, I visited all the hotels in the Hounslow area.
Yeah.
And I sat there and I ordered coffee and I watched and I saw how they interacted with other people and with myself. And there was a lady called Iwana who was working for one of these hotels, and I loved her customer services, her politeness, how she couldn't do enough for you. So I pulled her aside and said to her,
"Can I give you a job?
I'm opening something. I'd really love for you to come and see it." Bless her. She came with her husband, and at that point, we dug up all the floors.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, we'd take a shop, and literally it was rubble.
Yeah.
And I explained my vision, and she took a leap of faith.
Wow.
And she brought on a team with her, predominantly, Romanians and Eastern Europeans, but she was able to communicate with them in her language to make sure that she was able to explain what we needed. And as they worked with us, their English improved. They watched the way we interacted with our customers, and that became a little bit easier for them. So, yeah, interesting.
Wow. So you went out and did some research, you'd say?
You sure? Or research, or what would you call enticing people?
Enticing people, yeah, we can call it that. So, Tejal, it's been a year since Mimi's closed, about a year?
So it hasn't closed. We sold a year ago.
Okay, so a year on.
I know.
How did it feel, like, considering you were working long hours, and I know you were, I used to drive to work in the morning, you'd be open, driving back, you'd still be open, you're still there.
Do you know what? It was actually a really difficult decision for us. But Honey and I wanted to leave on a high. We also wanted to leave whilst the business was profitable and we knew we could get something back for all those 7 hours a day, 7 days a week, 13 hours a day. It was really important that we got something back for that hard work, because it had been blood, sweat and tears, I'm not going to lie. And I think what made us reevaluate is we'd had a really good year. And a couple of companies approached us about putting the business on the market. And just out of curiosity, we invited them in and we got an idea of what we felt the business was worth, or they felt the business was worth. So we were like, okay, we'll think about it.
So it wasn't even your idea. It was just people started approaching you.
Well, you know, you get these emails all the time in business, right?
Let's evaluate the business. How much is it worth?
So, you know what? It was curiosity. And then what happened was we had COVID. And I'm not going to lie, COVID was a great year for us as a business, because we furloughed all of our staff. Me and my sister ran a takeaway service on our own. And because we'd invested so much into the community, they stayed loyal.
Yeah.
So we had a great year. So the year after COVID, I don't know if you recall, but all the utility prices absolutely skyrocketed.
Yeah.
And our utility bill went up by 4 times what we were paying. And that made this huge impact on our bottom line. Then obviously there was the increase in salaries and, wages went up considerably. So there were so many factors that made us think this is really going to have a huge impact on our bottom line.
And were these people approaching you before or after COVID?
Before
COVID.
Yeah.
Okay, then COVID happened, and
then all of this.
And we had this whole eat out.
Oh yeah,
with the governors.
That was frightening.
And I was supposed to take in one day for some dessert, and I ended up in the kitchen washing the dishes.
Yeah, listen, any friend of mine knew they had to bring marigolds, because you just never knew. We went from 0 to 100 in those. Had these Cephos, we had queues round the corner. One day, it was crazy, but we were really grateful. So yeah, there was this huge increase in utilities, in wages, and then the suppliers started to put all their prices up. And every couple of months I was getting a letter to say, oh, we're putting our prices up by 20%. We're putting our prices up by 22%. And it got to the point where my sister and I were almost arguing, because she was like, we've got to put our prices up to be able to sustain the business. And I'm like, but people can't afford it. People are, struggling. And it's just like, where do you draw the line? So it was at that point we were like, right, let's speak to one of these companies. And that's when we put it on the market. What I would say is, you actually go get your business evaluated, but you don't actually need to use these companies. You can actually do it yourself, because we stayed tied in with one company for a year and found that we weren't getting the traction that we wanted. And I do believe that is because they were a national company. And it's the local community that knew our business. So we actually ended up putting it on with a local agent and sold it within weeks.
Within weeks? Wow.
Literally within weeks. So I think it's good to get your business valued by a commercial company. But really think about whether you need to pay those fees or whether you're better off using somebody who knows your business and knows the people around you.
It's a community, like you said. So going back to a year on, how do you feel?
Do you know what? That is the hardest thing. Mimi's was my brainchild. Mimi's is named after my daughter. So I was so emotionally connected to that business. But because I'd seen the changes and I'd seen that people were struggling, we weren't as busy as we were, I knew for me to walk away with something in the bank, the timing was right. So we did that. And with the new owners, we had initially said that I'd stay with them for 3 months to teach them the ropes. 2 weeks later, they just sort of said to me, no, we know everything, you can go. That was hard because I knew they didn't know everything and they hadn't run a hospitality business prior.
Okay.
And like me, they were going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Whereas what they could have done is really pulled on my knowledge and my experience to make that transition easy, and not just for themselves, but for the customers, so that they retain the customer base. Unfortunately, the shop's not that busy. I drive past because I live locally daily, and it breaks my heart to see the hard work my sister and I had put into it has literally, it's been washed away. And it has taken me a long time to disengage the emotion. Look, I'm getting emotional. Or anyway, it took me a long time. Touch wood, I'm at that point where it actually now, when I drive past, doesn't feel like it was ever mine.
Wow. And that's happened in a year.
It's happened in a year. But I had to make a real conscious decision that I needed to separate the emotion. And I have to kind of recognize that it served its purpose for me. It got me through this messy divorce. It kept my head above water. It got my daughter to university. I felt really accomplished when I sold the business. You're divorced, and you'll know when you get divorced, especially when I did 20 years ago, there was a stigma around it, and people kind of look at you as though you're broken. And I feel like I stuck my fingers up at the world and said, look, I'm not, I'm good. And I felt really accomplished.
Yeah. So Handy must have looked at you and thought, okay, this big restaurant. Well, she thinks she is.
But they don't see the hard work behind it.
Yeah.
The nights where you're, after the shop's closed at midnight, you and your sister are on your hands and knees scrubbing floors to make sure that you meet your food safety and hygiene sort of requirements, etc. People don't see the worrying overnight about what bills are coming in, how you're going to pay your staff, because in the early days, that's what it was like. But yeah, I felt really accomplished at the time that we sold it, and I felt really fulfilled, and I felt I walked away with my head held high.
You certainly did. You're well known for it. And honestly, like when I found out you were going to, do you remember we used to talk about lying on a beach and just looking on our CCTVs at our businesses and having pina coladas on a beach? But you've done it now.
I'm not lying on a beach drinking. No.
You had to wait for me, yeah? You used to wait for me to get to make my exit strategy, and then, we can do that. So Tejal, apart from you've given some advice as to what people should do, is there anything else that is really, really stands out for you that you feel somebody going into a restaurant business needs to consider?
Oh gosh, Veena, there's so much. Really think it through. Really think it through, from everything, from your layout to your kitchen to maximizing your floor space. So you're getting enough people in, but there's enough space for your staff to be able to navigate from table to table, carrying plates, carrying hot drinks, whatever. You really focus on those things. Focus on getting to know all your suppliers, negotiating fees, but more than anything, don't look for cheap products, look for quality, because that will stand out time and time again.
And your suppliers, they were open to negotiation?
Some of them weren't, but you have to make a decision. Is it quality?
Yeah.
Or is it quantity?
Yeah.
We chose quality. It's so funny because we'd have these customers coming in, and Pizza Hut was always infamous for their cookie dough.
Yes.
Everyone would be, oh, it can't be as good as Pizza Hut. And I used to say to them, I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
I know my cookie dough's good.
It's amazing.
If not, it's better.
Okay.
You try it. I'm not even going to charge you. If you finish it, you pay for it.
Okay.
I'm telling you, 10 out of 10 times, they ended up paying for it.
Brilliant.
But it's having that confidence in knowing that your product, I've paid a little bit more for my product, but I know it's a good quality product and you can kind of vouch for it the way I used to.
Mm.
So get to know your suppliers, negotiate with them. And any food business, the biggest takeaway is literally takeaways. Spend as much time concentrating on your delivery business as you are your eating business. Because
yes, I remember I used to be standing there paying and you'd be getting all these orders coming through as well.
Yeah. And you know what? 35% of our revenue was through our delivery partners.
Wow.
And in Australia, 1 in 2 families order a takeaway daily. So that's 50%. The UK, since COVID, is moving in the same direction. So find your delivery partners. Now, there's a lot out there. Not all of them are going to work for you. Get them all in and literally see, where are you getting the majority of your sales? Who's giving you the biggest? Who's charging you the most? Figure out what works for you. But delivery is...
Who's your best delivery partner?
Uber Eats, without a doubt.
Really? Uber says that straight away.
Oh, I don't even need to think about it. And I do think it's not just about the volume. I think from a driver's perspective, I think they get paid more by Uber. So what we found was happening, and I could be wrong. So, but we'd get a order on one of the other delivery partners, and the driver would be on their way, and they'd drop it because they'd got an Uber order when they were getting paid more.
Oh, so one driver could be working for
all 3 of them.
Right.
And they will go with the person that's paying the most. So
why wouldn't they?
Yeah. So we found with Uber, it was more consistent.
Okay. Thank you. So what do you do now, Tejal, with your free time? Are you a lady of leisure? Because you're not on the beach yet. So what are you doing?
No, I'm not a lady of leisure. I wish I was. I've actually retrained. So again, that was a part of my exit strategy. What am I going to do if I'm not making dessert or coffees? So I retrained as a rapid transformational therapist. Now, RTT was something... it's a lady called Marissa Peer who has come up with the RTT program. Marissa Peer is one of the world's, I think she's one of the top 3 hypnotherapists in the world. And she's come up with a program which helps you address your root cause for whatever issue it is, whether it's emotional or physical, through regression. We help you reframe it and transform it. So whilst we were going through the sale of the business, I was actually re-educating myself.
So when did you start that? So was it a year before you were about to sell because you knew it was going to happen?
Yeah. So I started it 9 months before we sold. And then I gave myself 3 months to finish the course.
Okay.
So yes, I'm a rapid transformational therapist, I'm a hypnotherapist and a psychic medium. And I've been doing mediumship for 10 odd years. So fairly experienced at that. I've been doing, and it's so bizarre because,
baking cakes.
to talking to dead people.
Wow. Okay. So that's what you do now?
Yes, I do. I also, as you know, Vino, I really want to support businesses. So when you wanted to move out of your home and bring it out, I encouraged you, I connected you with someone where you moved your business to. So I really like to help and encourage other small businesses. So I do mentor small businesses in helping them elevate their business. My expertise is within the food industry.
Okay.
I am happy to work and connect people.
So how would somebody contact you if they wanted you to mentor them?
So for the spiritual and RTT side, I have a website and it's www.tejalbathia.com.
Okay.
They can contact me through that or through my Instagram, which again is the Tejal Bathia.
The Tejal Bathia. So going back to RTT, are you busy with it? Do you have regular clients? Have you built a community there as well?
I am busy with it. I haven't actually been promoting myself because we've had a lot of stuff going on in our personal life, which has meant that I've really needed to focus on family for the last year. But I am busy with it. I'm really busy with the hypnotherapy because I do a lot of work with students who struggle with exams. And obviously it's been GCSEs and A-levels, and people have just had their mocks in December. So I've really been busy helping students get through their exams.
Give me an example. How do you help them?
So we do a hypnotherapy session where I help them to focus on their revision. And it's about quality revision, not quantity. So setting out a certain amount of time, knowing that you've got free time afterwards to do as you please. So you get yourself into that headspace. Also, everything that they read for their subconscious mind to store it. Then when they go into the exam, as soon as they read the paper, their subconscious mind to find the answer, keep it in the forefront of their mind until they've committed it to paper. And it's fantastic because the kids that I did last year have had phenomenal results. So
that's amazing.
But it's so interesting how your mind works.
So parents, you need Tejal. I see kids are not studying, you need Tejal.
Absolutely.
And again, through your website, let's translate you for that. Any other wins in that world?
Oh God, so many. I mean, RTT's been great with weight loss. I literally have just done a client 10 weeks ago and she's lost 2 stone through healthy eating and exercise.
So what was it, her relationship with food, or was it some sort of trauma?
Yeah, so for most things, it's trauma that's connected to that has happened to us in our early years, our formative years, 0 till 7. And a lot of the time, it's things that have happened that we've buried. Really do. And it was so funny because with this particular client, I regressed her to 3 scenes. And the first 2 scenes, I'm a bit like, I'm not sure where this is going. But the 3rd scene was so revealing. And because of what had happened, she had decided by being bigger, she would get any attention.
Right.
And that's why she'd allowed herself to put on weight. And, there was a reason behind it, and we talked about it and whether she needed to keep that belief. She was ready to recognize she no longer needed it. And we were able to transform it. And now she is so committed to losing weight, but doing it the right way. She eats well. She measures her protein. She works out 3 times a week. And the results are phenomenal.
So for viewers who don't know what regression is or scenes, just explain that briefly.
Sure. So regression is through hypnosis, taking you back, regressing you back to where the issue actually started.
So at a certain point in your life. And when you say a scene, is that like an age you were at that time you were doing?
Your subconscious mind would naturally take you there. I don't know whether that happened. I would guide you or your subconscious mind to find where it started. And then we connect the dots. So the reason we do 3 scenes is we connect the dots. What's the link between those scenes to have caused your belief or the issue that you have right now? Okay. And then we reframe it and transform it.
And how many sessions does somebody typically need?
Do you know what? Sometimes change is different for everyone. For some people it's immediate, some people it's gradual, and some people it's retroactive. It's when you look back that you think, oh my God, I've made those changes. So it really depends. This lady's only had 1 session. but sometimes it can take up to 3. I've done a lot of work with people with low self-esteem and self-confidence issues. And it's really bizarre from when they come to me to after the session when they leave, you can physically see the change, from being slumped shoulders, they're
standing taller, prouder.
Yeah, chin raised high. You can see it immediately. And it's really bizarre because sometimes people are in hypnosis and they'll say to me, you can't hypnotize me. And they'll come out of it and they'll be like, I thought I was awake the whole time. It's only when you asked me to come out, I realized I was asleep.
Wow. That's, for someone who hasn't had it, that's almost like, wow, is it real? So can they do it online or is it face-to-face or both? Both.
We can do it online and we can do it face-to-face. I like to do it face-to-face because I like to kind of feel people's energy. Yeah, but it's phenomenal. It makes a huge difference in people's lives. And yeah, you know what? Please check out my website because there's a lot of things that we offer. On my team, we have a pranic healer, we have a hypnobirthing expert. So there's lots of things we can do if you want to go the holistic route.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tejal. So excited to have her. So she's told you how you can contact her. And if you would like to be one of the founders in the chair, please do contact me.